And so I'm Anne Choquette, CEO of TheLi.st, host, your friendly neighborhood moderator for this session today. We are talking with Tanya Selvaratnam and Amber Briggle. Amber is a fierce advocate and mom to Max, and Tanya is an award-winning, very renowned filmmaker and activist advocate, and the producer behind Love to the Max. And I am here. I actually have a little role to play in this film coming together. TheLi.st was instrumental, deeply instrumental in bringing these two amazing humans together and helping to support its birth, the story's birth into the world. And so I'm happy to represent for my small role in this today and happy to see everybody. Okay, so I vamped long enough. We have our people in the room. I want to start this conversation where I think all good creative conversations should start, which is, what was the spark that led to this amazing film? I'm going to start with Tanya. Talk to us about the spark.
Well, the spark came from Amber. And literally, we see the spark on Amber right now on your shirt, the light. And it was when Amber reached out to TheLi.st back in 2022, and the subject line caught my eye because it was for help. Because I believe, Amber, that Child Protection Services had shown up at your home.
Yeah, they had, or they were about to. I can't recall. It was all a blur, but it was during that time. Yeah.
And I replied to Amber in the group for everyone to see. I said, document everything that's happening to you. Because I just knew from my own experience navigating strange times, keeping a record of what was happening to you could become important, not just on a personal level, but also on a legal level.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what my impetus was for telling her to document everything. And then it was another lister, Genevieve Roth, who reached out to me privately and said, you should be the one documenting this. Because Genevieve knew my work as a filmmaker and also had worked with me as a filmmaker. And I had already started thinking about this as a potential film. And I was already producing for Story Syndicate, which is the production company founded by Liz Garbus and Dan Kogan. And I reached out to them and said, I know I'm working on this other project, but this seems more urgent. What do you think? And then I reached out to Amber and I said, you are making a difference and documentaries can make a difference. If you're interested in having this be documented by a film crew, let me know. And then that's how the ball got rolling.
Mm-hmm.
So it started with that email to TheLi.st.
Yeah, it was it was very organic, and I had reached out to TheLi.st. So for those who are unfamiliar with TheLi.st, so Larry, I know that you follow me on my page, so you may be unfamiliar with what TheLi.st is, but it's Anne. I'm going to give the floor to you for just a second. Do you want to talk about what TheLi.st is? Let's get people caught up on how.
Okay, so yeah, so TheLi.st is a community of high impact women and non-binary leaders who are devoted, underline devoted, to helping each other achieve and succeed. It is more than a decade old, digital first, which makes it amazing. I'm in New York. Tanya's often on the West Coast. Amber is in Texas. Our members are nationwide. But because we are here to help support each other, you can come into the space with the most vulnerable questions. Mm-hmm. It's a place where if you have an ask, it will get answered. And Amber has been a longtime member. We've championed and cheered and held hands and empathized with you for your journey for
For
years.
years, yeah.
And so I think that's right, that when you come to the community and with an email that subject line that says help, people come out of the woodwork to help. So
Yeah.
tell us,
exactly
yes.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. That's perfect. And so that's exactly what happened. So it was in February of 2022, just for others who may not be completely aware of my story. I'm the parent of two amazing kids, Max and Lulu, and we live in Texas. And in February of 2022, my former dinner guest, Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, and Governor Greg Abbott basically directed, I just call it CPS, but it's Texas Department of Family Protective Services. For the sake of simplicity, I'll call it CPS. Directed them to investigate families of transgender kids for child abuse. And I was so naive. I thought I wouldn't be investigated because I've been living out loud this, marching the halls of the Texas legislature, writing op-eds in the Washington Post, leading this a lot. Not just me, but part of this big movement in Texas to protect trans kids. And I hadn't been investigated yet. So I'm like, oh, surely they wouldn't investigate me. Well, they did. And I was terrified, as any parent can imagine. Just loving your kids unconditionally is now somehow a crime. And I didn't know where to go. And I wanted to talk about it in a safe space, I guess. I didn't want to post anything to social media and be like, can you please pray this is happening? Because I didn't want to sway the investigation. I just wanted to keep it as private as I could while still seeking support. And that's when I went to the list and I just said, I'm fucking terrified. I don't know what to do. There's not much I can tell you here, but this thing is about to happen or is happening, and I just need your help and support. And not at all asking, hey, does someone want to make a documentary? It was just, I need help and you are my people, so please help me. And that's when Tanya reached out, as did other people. And it took me a while to kind of sort through all of this because, as you can imagine, there was a lot of media that wanted to highlight this, which I appreciate. But I didn't know everyone. I had not yet met Tanya in person. And because she's in New York or she's in Portland and I'm in the Dallas area. And so I was kind of sorting through, who can I trust to tell the story? Who do I want to tell the story to? Because I still, now 2.5 years later, I still cry about it. It's extremely raw and painful and awful and fucking horrifying that happened. And I only have so many fucking spoons. And I hope it's okay that we swear. Do you want me to filter any of this? Or are we good? We're good. Okay. I only have so many spoons. I can't tell my story to everyone. And so if I was going to tell our story, because Tanya's right, documentaries do make a difference. And I had been trying to scream from the rooftops for years that trans kids need your attention. They need you to pay attention. Like, this is important. And this affects not only my family. I think it's important for people to realize they're coming after my family. They're coming for yours next. Like, it doesn't stop with trans kids, just like how we saw with the Dobbs decision, right? It didn't stop with abortion. It went to IVF, and now we're looking at birth control and divorce and it's the canary in the coal mine. Anyway, I digress. But my point was, I wanted the media attention because I wanted to alert people what was happening, but I wanted it to be impactful. And then when I made the connection that Tanya was part of the list, and I knew was going to do a good job with this, I trusted her to tell the story. That's when things started to go into motion. But I think it took me a couple of weeks, Tanya, maybe to get back to you, because I was just sorting through everything. Like, there was a lot happening, not just your requests, but other requests, and of course CPS and lawyers and just all sorts. So it took a little while to kind of get back to you, but I'm really glad that we connected and made this happen.
Well, and it's amazing that it happened and in the way that it did, because it was so organic. It was spontaneous in a way.
Yeah.
And it was just a very visceral reaction I had to your appeal for help. Because it was not in my vision for what my next 2 years was going to be like. But I felt like it fell on my radar for a reason.
Yeah.
And that was like, for me was the magic of the list. Like
Yeah.
there's so much noise, so many emails flying around. You just never know what's going to catch your eye.
Yeah.
That could be a particular way.
Yeah. Yeah. As a business owner, I can kind of relate to that. It's like you're not really looking for an opportunity, then all of a sudden something just like drops in your lap. You're like, oh, that looks interesting. And then it ends up being the right path. Like when you force something, it doesn't come together. But this was just so organic. And it just came out so beautifully in the film, Tanya. I think you and your team just did such an amazing job with capturing our story. I hadn't really realized how affectionate we are, physically affectionate, because it's just part of my life. But watching the film, I was really touched by how many of those instances you caught of us just, reaching for each other or hugging and kissing or just being close to each other. And you just did a fantastic job. I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful. So thank you.
And I'm grateful and honored to be the one who translated your story into this film that's in a concise 13 minutes.
Yeah,
I
amazing. Amazing.
say they're like, how did you get so much emotion in 13 minutes? I was like, that's them,
I
That's
will
the
drop oh, Amber, you dropped it.
I grabbed it.
You're doing my job. Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's also, so Julie had asked where she can see the film. So Tanya had earlier posted the link to where it lives on the New Yorker website, because they acquired the film and it lives there, but they also have a YouTube channel. And so you can also find it on YouTube. So, which is wonderful. There's no paywall. You don't need a Netflix or Hulu or Prime subscription to watch this. It's accessible to everyone. I'm really excited about that.
Will you talk, Amber, about in deciding to tell your story, right? Because your story is very big, right? It's had twists and turns, and it's gone from the private moments that you have with your family to the very public moments is not the right word, but the very public attacks that you had from politicians to the press to social media. And so will you talk a little bit about what is the important message that you wanted to tell with this film? Because there's so many angles. There's a political angle. There's a deeply personal angle about your son. There's a lot of story there. And to distill it into the thread of the documentary Love to the Max, what was the story you wanted to tell, Amber?
Well, what I wanted to tell, and I think what Tanya and her team did such a good job telling, is that my family, as I said earlier, is just like yours, right? Like we drive a minivan. I own a local business. My husband's an educator. We got a couple of kids. We've got a couple of cats. You're going to see Burgers the cat in the film quite a bit. Like she's very social. Like we're so normal and typical and boring. And quite honestly, there's nothing special or significant about us. We happen to be in this moment in history not because we're extraordinary people, but because we were, through fate, I guess, one of the first families to kind of come forward publicly as being trans inclusive in Texas. So when my son socially transitioned, meaning he cut his hair, he changed his pronouns, he changed his name, he just dressed more like your kind of stereotypical boy. He socially transitioned in first grade, and he was, I'm pretty sure, the first openly trans student at his elementary school. And this was 10 years ago, because he's 16 now. And it was shortly after that, because that's when certain political parties started, making it scary to be in a public restroom with trans people. And we were talking about bathrooms back then. 10 years ago, there was a presidential election about to happen, and one political party started getting really, really cruel about the rhetoric facing trans people. I started speaking up because I was, protecting my son, and then and it just ended up. Then the attention got to be on me, and then the media's like, "Oh, you have a trans kid. Let's talk about that." And anyway, my point is, we're not extraordinary. We just happen to be one of the first, and we are one of many thousands of trans inclusive families across the country. And so what I wanted to tell in the story, and what I think Tanya and her team did such a good job doing, is showing how absolutely normal we are. There's a scene in there, I'm reading books in a bookstore, I'm singing we're singing in church. I have a solo in church, and Max and my husband Adam are, playing their instruments. We're frosting Christmas cookies with the kids' grandma. Like, we're really, really typical. And then over layered on top of this is, while I'm reading books at the bookstore, the Proud Boys are outside, shouting obscenities at my family and people who are like us, because they think that I'm a child abuser and a groomer, which kind of got us here in the first place, right? And so it's I think she did such a good job showing again that how normal and loving and unthreatening my family is, and how, if this can be said about my family and these actions can be taken against my family, namely, weaponizing a CPS worker basically to further your political agenda, there's no telling what they'll do next. Like she was literally in my home on my couch investigating my children. There were lawyers involved. Like this is really happening to families in our country. And if people don't stand up for my family, they're absolutely going to come for you next. And I think Tanya did such a good job highlighting that we're so relatable in this film.
Well, and also for me, it was important to show that you're not alone, that you and your family are not alone, that you have a community around you.
Yeah.
Is a loving, supporting community, because too often these stories are depicted in the threats are real and threats are scary, but they forget that the people at the center of the storm aren't necessarily isolated people.
Right.
Like they and that was very important for me to show, like the scene in the park. For those who have seen it, we show a community of families with trans kids that gather together. And also, what was important for me, I mean, the reason I make documentaries is to take the invisible and make it visible so that people can't turn away. And having an outlet like the New Yorker show it, which reaches millions of people, makes it very visible. And I feel like these are all part of a wellspring of people sharing their stories, so that others don't feel alone, and so that those who are watching it convert from being bystanders to upstanders. Because it's not just that we're heading into election, we're heading into a very fraught time when it comes to trans people and their rights. For example, there is the court case that's going to be happening this fall that Chase Strangio from the ACLU leading about gender affirming healthcare in Tennessee. These are cases that people should be aware of. And I think until you get close to the pain, which is what we tried to do in the film, unless you get close to the pain, it's hard for people to understand it. Julie asked a question, have you shared this with PFLAG? I think PFLAG, and I bet many people there would like to be able to push it out to their communities. Yeah, I mean, we shared it widely, and the New Yorker did, and it needs to be shared more widely.
I am actually, you're right. We want the whole world to see this. And the more people who see it, the bigger the impact that this film will have. But I personally am speaking at a PFLAG meeting in Fort Worth next week, where we're going to show the film, and then I'll stick around and answer some questions. That's just a little local chapter. But I don't know. I hope that I mean, this would be for anyone who knows anyone who's in PFLAG. I mean, it's 13 minutes. It'd be a great event to have at your next PFLAG meeting. It's on YouTube. It's widely accessible, so you can just log in and show that, and maybe have a discussion afterwards, or invite Tanya and I to Zoom in and be happy to conversation too. So,
well, and
Amber, oh, sorry, go on, Tanya, go on.
Well, in the release, we're tiering it, because there was the release at the end of June. We wanted it to coincide with the end of Pride Month, and then there are going to be opportunities to uplift the film again. So I feel like it's going to have multiple tales, because we have the court case happening possibly sometime this month. We have trans remembrance in November. So just think, what are the benchmarks that we can link the film to have it uplifted and again, because this story is timeless. It's not going anyway, and if anything, it's gathering more urgency. So any provide in sharing it, and it already has been shared with many organizations, who I'm hoping will uplift it this fall. Gina Rosero is on this call, and Gina watched a cut of the film and gave feedback. And Gina has been sharing it with her network of people to get it out there. And
Yeah.
we ideas, because that's
Yeah.
what's that's how these stories get out there, is by
Absolutely.
people being ambassadors for it.
Yeah, and to your point about having kind of like events throughout the year, which you did a great job naming some of those dates. There's also thinking about like how can you partner with someone and to elevate their event. So as an example, at the end of October, the Campaign for Southern Equality, they've got a book coming out. We're a small part of one of the chapters of the book, but they're going to have a book reading here in my town, and they're going to partner with us. We're going to show the film, and then we're going to have a panel. So it's really kind of their event, but it's going to just be kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not highlighted. Like it's going to be, I don't know. What's the word when you make something better? It's going to be made better.
You mean,
What's
or
that?
amplified? Just amplified?
It's like, I don't know. We're gonna complement. That's the word. Gonna be complemented with our film and a panel. So yeah, more ambassadors, more showings, more everywhere. Larry, I love your idea about the Dallas Holocaust Museum. Don't they have a specific LGBTQ exhibit there? That might be an interesting avenue. So I'll reach out to them. Good idea.
Amber, talk to me about how this film is landing in your community and then the ripple effects in Texas. And so, like, we can't undo the harm that's been done to you and your family. And it's one thing to like it's the New Yorker, right? So it's one thing for the New Yorker to champion it. But how has this landed in your community?
Well, Tanya can back me up on this. When we screened it, there's a documentary film festival that happens was it in April, I want to say, Tanya? It was a full house, packed seats. I mean, you look like you're going to jump in. What were you going to say?
Well, the reason I'm jumping in is because Gina Rosero has posted in the chat that she has to jump at 1:30, but love to share a few thoughts. So
Oh, please, yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So good to see everyone. I just want to share a couple of things. I mean, again, what an honor for me to be here to share this space. You know, when Tanya first shared with me about this project, and I was lucky to, I've seen some early cuts, and now to see it out in the world, especially in this very critical moment. I just want to really even magnify the power of this and the power of this collaboration that happened through the list, even more so what you, Amber, have shared, that this is a reflection of even bigger, more issues, right? And not just in the very single identifier of like intersectionality, but more so as a society, as part of this American culture, like the very personal narrative of what this film um, have brought to the forefront, the love that you shared to your kid. Just like I remember my mom, who the hero of my story in all the ways, from the Philippines to being here. But what I really I think that even the spiritual message of this film is, the bigger questions that we have as in American culture, the long history of grappling of history of gender fluidity in this culture. I think I begin to share this now in this context, how it relates to this film as well. Is that, to people that are coming out against this film, the dehumanization that trans folks are experiencing, I really truly believe that because they're afraid to see their own light, they're afraid to see their own truth. And I think what the power of this film does is like it really shines a light, yes, maybe in just that one identity, but in this bigger conversation on being your true self and finding your true self and grappling this bigger topics, particularly as an American culture. And then to have this in the most personal journey that you all have shared, anyone who sees this and still against with that, they have to grapple with their own problem, because this doesn't, the film does not have to justify the humanity of trans folks, the humanity of a mother who loves you know, her kid. That personal revelation in this film, in storytelling that becomes universal, and the people who still who won't get that, they have bigger problems and issues to resolve within their spirit.
Mhm,
So just
mhm.
wanted to share that. Thank you
Well
again.
said. Thank you.
That's right. They're the problem.
Yeah. That's well said. Thank you, Gina.
Thank
Agreed.
you, Gina. I'm so glad you came in and
Yeah,
shared.
I'm so honored you were here, Gina. You're like super busy, and it's just like I'm just like I'm so touched that you made time for this. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any way I could be of help further, we'll have a chat.
Yeah, sure.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Let's open it up for questions. Let's see who in our audience wants to jump in. I loved that Gina jumped in and shared her thoughts with us. I see some people thinking about coming in with questions.
Yes.
In the meantime, while you're thinking about your questions and thinking about your comments that you want to jump in, Amber, tell us more about the ways in which you've seen the ripple effects from this film in your own community, good or bad, honestly, but
Yeah.
that's their problem.
I mean, so we've lived in our town for 15 years. I own a thriving downtown business. My husband is an educator. I've run for city council a couple times unsuccessfully, but people know, they know us. They've watched both my kids grow up here. And so I was not surprised. I was touched, but I wasn't surprised that we'd have a full house for that screening of the documentary film festival that we have here in our town every year. I was so touched. It was like a family reunion. It was amazing. There were so many people who even traveled from out of town who were, in the film in other ways. People ask me a lot why we don't just leave Texas, and it's a couple of reasons. One, it's not that simple. I have a small business, and my husband is a tenured professor. Like, those jobs don't transfer, right? So it's not quite that simple. But the other reason is, we actually kind of like it here. We're loved and supported. We go to church when we can, and we donate to the PTA, and we pick up trash, and I volunteer with my Rotary Club, and we like it here. We have a really solid community, and I think it's really unfortunate when the rest of the country just writes off all of Texas as being a lost cause, because that's not at all the case, at all. And if it was the case, we would have left years ago. And so I guess I wasn't surprised that the support for our film and our family would be as big and positive as it was, because people like us. We're likable, and we like them back. I don't know what the response has been like in the rest of the country. I know we had a fantastic showing, world premiere at the Aspen Film Festival. That was amazing. But I don't know beyond that. I can just hope that the more people that see, I mean, as Gina said, like, how can you watch this film and still have a hard time with trans kids and moms like me? Like, it was so beautifully done. So I don't know. I mean, I guess, we can all do something, as Michelle Obama said. We can all do something. And hopefully all of us doing something together, whether it's big like a documentary, or small like just showing up at that school board meeting, right? Big or small, it all is all going to have this cumulative effect, and together we can make a difference. What were you going to say, Tanya?
Well, I was going to say, like, using the film to catalyze civic engagement is an important takeaway. Like, because by sharing our stories, the hope is that we make people feel like they want to take action. Which is why it was important for me to focus on the emotions of what y'all were going through rather than the politics of what you were going through.
Yeah.
And also, for me, I have like a wish list, a dream list of what I would like to see happen with the film. There are some very high profile celebrities like Sade, who's coming out with a song in support of trans kids because she has a trans kid. Wade has a trans kid and has spoken out about how much he loves his trans kid. Just encouraging people to do more of that. People whom you would not think to be supporters of the cause, have a deep personal connection to the cause.
Mhm.
And so figuring out like how, first of all, supporting them, and also getting the film to them. Like that's like my next few months. Like, how can I get the film in front of them? And I suppose that's the thing that I should reach out to the list about.
Yeah.
Yes. Marie Kemp is in the chats and wants to jump in. Marie, do you want to come off mute and share?
Hi, everybody. I kind of found you guys by accident, and I'm so glad that I did. I'm a mom of 3 beautiful adult children, all who self-identify as members of the LGBTQIA+ community.
Congratulations. That's quite the rainbow.
Yes, trial by fire, essentially, and have dedicated the past 2.5 years since my husband and I retired after 30 years in the military to trying to become an advocate for members of that community, starting small. As you said, in my small town, not small, but I'm in Arlington, Virginia, but you know what I mean. In the community, and I even took the training for the Trevor Project, although eventually decided that I couldn't handle being on the phone lines personally. But the training I got out of that has only helped me to understand and be a better advocate and give me more language, which I think is super important. Your documentary is unbelievable, but the thing that connected with me is just recently I've connected with 2 lovely non-binary persons, and they have asked me to partner with them to create a training for a small community in upstate New York. One of them is already a DHS worker for juveniles, and she has found out that she has quite a few LGBTQ youth on her caseload, and she didn't have the right kind of training. And when she went back to New York State to ask for training, they sent her to a 1-hour training that she felt was completely inadequate. And we became really good friends because I happened to own a little cabin up there, and we got to know each other. And as she started to hear my story, because I'm very transparent about my journey with my 3 children and everything that I believe in, and 100% unconditional love and support. And so she came to me and she said, I'm working with this wonderful non-binary lawyer in New York City for the Advocate Lesbian Council, and we want to create a training, and we think you would be a wonderful advocate, and we want you to open the training. And they want to open it for DHS and CPS workers. And so here, listening to you and this horrific experience that you went through, and as I've been thinking in my head, I don't have a lot of experience talking in front of groups yet. This will be a very, very new thing for me. But I wanted to just ask you, now that I've shared a little bit about my story and what I'm thinking, or what I've been asked to do, having gone through this with this terrible CPS experience, what are the couple of things that are coming right now to the top of your head that you would want me to represent for you when I'm in that space, when I have the opportunity? Because we hope that maybe this might become something we get to do more.
So you're training CPS workers specifically? This isn't advice for parents, this is advice for CPS workers.
No, these are for the CPS and DHS workers.
Oh, I mean, gosh, I will say that our investigator tried to be as polite and non-invasive as she could be. She was also following the governor's orders. They didn't have much of a choice at CPS to not investigate this. That said, there have been moments in history where other people were just following orders and really bad shit happened. And so I don't know if I can answer that question for you, Marie, because as kind as she tried to be, she was still part of a really invasive, horrible thing that was done to my family. And I know I feel like she tried not to be that big, horrible thing, and she was. And I'm still working through my feelings about all of that. I don't know if I can answer that question. I just generally believe that if you're a good parent and your kid is trans, that you shouldn't be investigated. And I don't know how to answer that question. I'm sorry. I would encourage you to reach out to the National Association of Social Workers. They also are very good about standing between kids and their bullies, right? So that might be, I would encourage you maybe reach out to them and reach out to PFLAG and Trevor Project too, just see if there's more that you can tie into that. I don't know if I can answer that question though, because I'm still working through my feelings on
I
that.
actually get that, and I hope I didn't trigger anything by asking.
No, it's fine. No, it's a very good question. I just don't know if I can answer that in a productive sort of way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And my goal is to try to teach them, to educate them. I feel that education is probably one of the most primary things we need. I need to educate them as much as I can. And the same thing that you guys did when you opened this by creating a safe space where anybody in this space could ask a question. And we're going to do that by creating an anonymous question line. So that, because I want them to ask me questions that might be hurtful or harmful or triggering to a person as a member of that community because they don't know any better. So ask me the question and I'll ask the question in that space. And to me, I feel like those are kind of the two most important things I can do, is to try to educate them, to give them the language, to teach them about support and unconditional support. I mean, obviously they're not going in just to investigate because of it's potentially a transgender person. They're going in as a CPS worker for whatever that situation looks like. Right? And this is just because the feeling is that New York State at this time doesn't have adequate training for their workers on how to support those families and those parents of those youth. So that's just, and this is just something that 3 people decided to get together and try to create. I mean, this is because it doesn't exist.
I love it.
Yeah, Marie brings up such a good point, which is that there are so many angles to this, and that you have to lead from where you are, right? And Marie's so grateful for you for having heart for people who are in traumatic situations and doing what you can from your point of view. I think that's there. This is, I think, the part of the message of the film is that everybody can play a role here. Right, that there is something for everyone to do to create support and love and protection and
we can all do something, and that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. I'm sorry, Maria. I don't think I can answer that question, but I'm so proud of you for doing that, though, for recognizing that there's a need and stepping in and trying to create a resource that's so important and so clearly needed. So thank you for your work on that.
With just a couple minutes left on our countdown timer here, Tanya, will you, I mean, you said you have a long list ahead of you of things that you want to do with this film. Will you tell us how we can help you? What can we do here in this room, the 10 of us who want to support you and want to support Amber and want to support Max?
If everyone here tells at least 5 people about the film, and while they're telling those 5 people about the film, asking them about their plan for voting and about how the rights at stake in this film are very much at stake in this election, I think that would be a huge, because there's so many things that people do to encourage people to vote. What really works is just peer-to-peer, person-to-person, talking to people, engage people in conversation. So I say, like, pick like the 3, 4, 5 people in your community that you're willing to have a conversation with about this film and couple it with voting. And I think that would be a great thing. And if anyone knows Sade,
I don't know if that's such a throwaway. This is a powerful room of people. Let's get her on the phone.
Can we put it out there too? Because Tanya, I remember when we were riding back to the airport in Aspen after the world premiere, and our driver was like, "It was such a good film. I loved it so much. What do you want to do next?" And I remember what you said. Can you say that? Speak that out loud. Do you remember what you said?
What did I say?
Huh?
What did I say?
You said you wanted, and I love this idea. Okay, I'll put it out there. You wanted to make it a feature-length film.
But yes.
Let's speak that into the universe right now. Tell us your vision.
that this short then becomes the basis for a narrative feature film
Based on a true story.
based on a true story. And what's fascinating to tie it back to the list is when this conversation, this thread was started on the list, we were joking about how it should be turned into a feature movie.
Yes. And I
and
think, go ahead.
the governor would be played by a trash can.
Yes. And Ken Paxton would be played by a toilet. That was my idea. I think it's brilliant.
And we had Sandra Bullock in there somewhere too.
Yeah, she was gonna play Jessica Shortall, I think. Yes, and but you said that Margot Robbie could play me, and I've been riding that high ever since.
Say that.
Yeah. So let's put it out there. Let's manifest that into reality, because I mean, what a great way to reach so many people, to sit down for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and to see like shocked into action. You know, I love it. Let's make it happen. Putting it out there. Matt, that's
I
the
think
power of the
it'll happen.
list. Yeah, yeah.
I think it'll happen. This is a powerful room. Nicole asks, can we share this recording beyond just the list? And the answer is yes. This is a public, open to all recording. And Nicole, I'll send you a link afterwards that you can share around. If anybody else wants a link, just ping me directly.
I didn't know that it was getting recorded, and so told people that they had to log in now or they were going to miss it. So will you? Can I share it as well in my newsletter? Thank
Yep.
you. Very great.
That's
Good.
great. Amazing. I thank you so much, the both of you. First of all, I thank you for doing this film, for doing your work, for your fierceness, both of you in this space. And I feel grateful just to be in your presence, and lucky to live in a world that you're helping make safer and better and stronger. And togetherness. This is like the ultimate expression of togetherness, which everybody knows is my jam these days. I'm so grateful everybody joined us for lunch today, and we will do more to come. We'll send you, we've got a few more of these coming up. But in the meantime, thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll circulate the recording so you can recruit more people into the